There is a clay tablet in a basement in Athens. It sits in a tray marked with a catalog number, tray 23, series PY, and 610. Most people who walk past it see administrative record keeping, the bureaucracy of a Bronze Age palace. Lists, numbers, names assigned to coastal positions. Nothing dramatic, nothing strange. But when a team of computational linguists fed over 3,000 Linear B tablets into a machine learning model in 2024, something unexpected came out of the other end. A pattern. Not in what the tablets said, in what they revealed about when they were written, how the language shifted over time, and what kind of decisions the Mycenaean administration was making in the final months before their entire civilization ceased to exist. What they found wasn't just a society under attack. It was a society that saw it coming, documented it in real time, and still could not stop it. Not a myth, not a metaphor, a bureaucratic death certificate, written in clay, baked into permanence by the very fire that destroyed everything. And if what the AI found is accurate, it means the story we've been telling about one of history's greatest collapses is missing several chapters. Chapters that were always there, hiding in the records, waiting for a system powerful enough to read them. Stay with us, because this is one of those discoveries that doesn't get simpler the further you go. If you're new here and you want to follow this kind of investigation, subscribe now. We do this every week. Let's go back to the beginning. The Palace of Nestor at Pylos, on the southwestern coast of Greece, excavated beginning in 1939 and then again from 1952 to 1966 by American archaeologist Carl Blegen. The site produced something extraordinary. Over 1,000 clay tablets inscribed in Linear B, the oldest recorded form of Greek, dating to approximately 1200 BCE. They were not supposed to survive. Linear B tablets were administrative records, temporary documents. They were never meant to be permanent. They were sun-dried clay, good for one season. When the palace burned, the fire reached temperatures high enough to fire the clay like a kiln. The destruction accidentally preserved the very records it was trying to erase. Those tablets are now housed primarily in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens and the Kora Museum near Pylos. They carry catalog designations from the Palace of Nestor archive, the PY series. Most are routine, ration distributions, livestock counts, land assignments, the kind of paperwork that keeps a complex society running. But a subset of them is different. For decades, scholars interpreted the AN series, particularly tablets PY and 600, and 10, 650, 4, and 650, 7, as standard military garrison records. Soldiers assigned to watch coastal positions, routine border security. The kind of thing any palace in the Bronze Age Mediterranean might generate. The mainstream interpretation was practical, but unremarkable. Soldiers, positions, names, nothing to get alarmed about. Here's where it gets strange. The 2024 machine learning study, published in the ACL Anthology, focused initially on tablet restoration through AI pattern recognition, identified something that wasn't the goal of the research. When the language patterns across the full Pylos archive were mapped chronologically, the AN series tablets showed a linguistic and administrative anomaly. The formulation used to record the coastal deployment is structurally unlike any other record in the Pylos archive from the preceding decades. The scribes used different urgency markers, different abbreviations, compression techniques that appear nowhere in the routine records. The vocabulary cluster around the coastal watcher deployments has a measurable linguistic signature that resembles what computational linguists call crisis compression. The same patterns modern researchers have found in emergency wartime communications, triage records, and disaster administration logs. Shorter constructions, omitted qualifiers, maximum information in minimum space. They weren't running a routine patrol. They were deploying every available man to the coastline. because something was coming. Over 600 men, according to scholars like John Chadwick, who worked on the original tablet decipherment, were assigned to watch the coastal sectors. 600 men. In a palace complex whose entire administrative apparatus probably managed a population of no more than 50,000 people. That is not standard. That is a total mobilization. And it was happening at the same time as something else. Something found in the GN series tablets. Here is where the picture darkens considerably. Clue 2. Tablet PYJN 829. The Temple Bronze. This tablet records a requisition. Bronze. Specifically, bronze being collected from sanctuaries and temples. Sacred objects dedicated to gods being stripped of their metal. The mainstream interpretation has always been that this represents a state levy, a form of emergency taxation on religious institutions. Not unprecedented, scholars said. Governments in crisis sometimes drew on temple wealth, but that explanation has a problem. The AI pattern analysis revealed that the NN series bronze collection tablets cluster within what researchers estimate is an 18-month window in the final period of the palace's operation. The collection rate, when mapped against the broader administrative records, accelerates. Early collections appear spaced. Later ones compress. The intervals between requisitions shorten. This is not the signature of an orderly policy. This is the signature of escalating desperation. A palace that started by taking a little and ended by taking everything. The bronze they collected from temples was almost certainly melted down into weapons. Spearheads, arrowheads. The sanctuaries were being dismantled to arm the men on the coast. Not similar to a crisis pattern. Not inspired by one. The same. Now we have a picture. 600 men deployed to the coast. Temples being stripped of sacred bronze, and a palace administration compressing its language as if it no longer had time for full sentences. And all of this preserved, accidentally, by the fire that ended everything. The tablets that recorded the mobilization were baked permanently by the destruction they were trying to prevent. But there is a third clue, and this one comes from somewhere else entirely, from a place 800 kilometers away, from a city that was burning at almost exactly the same time. Ugarit, modern-day Ras Shamra on the coast of Syria. In the final years of the 13th century BCE, the king of Ugarit, a man named Amurapi, received a letter from a neighboring ruler, warning him of ships. He wrote back, his letter, catalogued as RS 18.147, survived because it was never sent. It was found in the clay archive, still unsealed, still waiting. Amurapi wrote, "My father, behold, the enemy's ships came. My cities were burned. They did evil things in my country. All my troops are in the land of Hatti, and all my ships are in the land of Luca. The country is abandoned to itself. 7 ships of the enemy came here and inflicted much damage upon us. 7 ships. And the whole coast fell." Modern scholars have identified the attackers as the Sea Peoples, a loose confederation of maritime raiders whose identity has never been definitively established. They appear in Egyptian inscriptions, in Ugaritic archives, in Hittite collapse records. They burned Ugarit around 1192 BCE. They attacked Egypt twice under Pharaoh Ramesses III in 1208 and 1177 BEC. His inscriptions at Medinet Habu describe them as coming from islands and coastlands, moving with their families, their possessions, their ships, a migration and an invasion at the same time. For generations, the dominant theory held that these sea peoples were foreign outsiders, Anatolians, Sardinians, Sicilians, some unknown group from beyond the horizon, invaders from elsewhere. Then, modern science found something that changed everything. In 2019, a study published in Science Advances analyzed ancient DNA from Philistine burial sites at Ashkelon in modern Israel. The Philistines are associated in ancient records with the Sea Peoples. The DNA from their earliest Iron Age burials showed a clear signal, A significant proportion of their ancestry derived from southern European populations, specifically populations genetically consistent with the Aegean Bronze Age world, the Mycenaean genetic sphere, not Anatolian, not North African, Aegean, Greek. A 2017 study in Nature, cross-referenced with more recent work published in 2022 in Nature, Ecology, and Evolution, confirmed the genetic signature of the Mycenaean population with remarkable specificity. Present-day Greeks share approximately 90% of their ancestry with the ancient Mycenaeans. The population did not vanish, but something happened to some of them. A portion of the Mycenaean genetic population appears in the archaeological record of the Levantine coast in the early Iron Age, in places that were burned by the Sea Peoples, in settlements that rose where the Sea Peoples settled. And if that's true, it means our history is missing a chapter. The chapter where some of the Mycenaeans did not die in the collapse. They left. They took their ships, their bronze weapons stripped from temple walls, and they sailed east. And when they reached the coast of Canaan, they burned it. They became the catastrophe, the people who fled the destruction and brought destruction with them. It was sealed, it was mapped, and then it disappeared. Clue 3 is not an object, it's an absence. The genetic and archaeological evidence for this migration was noted in early reports from the Ashkelon dig. Initial analyses were circulated in conference papers in the mid-2010s. The full dataset connecting Aegean genetic ancestry to the early Philistine population was not published until 2019. Years after preliminary findings were available. Certain isotopic comparisons between Aegean material and Levantine Iron Age sites remain unpublished. A 2021 excavation season at the Mycenaean site of Iklaiana, which uncovered anomalous organic residues in what may be a secondary administrative archive, produced no formal publication as of this recording. The researcher who led that season has not commented publicly. The official explanation: multiple unrelated causes, each contributing independently to the collapse, leaves significant gaps. Now, does this prove the most extreme version of the story? Probably not. The Bronze Age collapse was almost certainly not caused by a single event. It was not one villain. It was not one drought. It was not one betrayal. A 2023 study published findings based on tree ring stable isotope data confirming severe multi-year drought across the eastern Mediterranean, beginning around 1198 BCE. 3 consecutive catastrophic harvest failures across the entire interconnected Bronze Age trade network. Hundreds of thousands of people facing famine simultaneously. The Hittite Empire, the Egyptian Empire, the Mycenaean palaces, Ugarit, all dependent on the same agricultural cycles, all hit by the same climate event. But that doesn't make the discovery ordinary. Because here is what the AI pattern analysis across the Pylos tablets actually suggests. The collapse was not sudden. It was, at least, partially predicted. The scribes documenting the coastal deployments, the temple bronze collections, the ration compressions, they were recording a society managing an unmanageable crisis. Month after month, cycle after cycle, requisitioning more bronze, deploying more men, compressing their language, eating through their reserves, and somewhere in the final weeks, they kept writing. Administrative entries continued. Animals were still counted. Rations were still assigned. They were keeping records right up to the moment the roof caught fire. This is what the AI found. Not a single dramatic collapse. A long, documented, bureaucratic unraveling. A civilization keeping meticulous notes on its own disintegration. The tablets are not just records of what the Mycenaeans did in their final days. They are evidence of what a complex, literate, interconnected society looks like when it cannot stop what is happening to it. When the systems are still running, but the outcome is already determined, and some of them left. We know this now from the DNA. They sailed away with everything they could carry, and they did to other coasts what was being done to theirs. Here is the question that does not have an answer yet. If the AI pattern analysis is correct, if the collapse was predictable and partially predicted, if the people of Pylos knew that something was coming, why did they stay? Why did the scribes keep writing animal counts and ration lists in the weeks before the palace burned? Why did Amurapi keep writing letters that were never sent? Maybe they believed it would pass. Maybe they had no option. Maybe the administrative machinery of their civilization had enough momentum that no one in it had the authority or the clarity to stop and say, "Get out now. This is over." The tablets from Pylos are still in their museum trays. They still carry their catalog numbers, PY and 610, PYJN 829. The crisis compression patterns the AI found are still in the language, waiting for the next researcher who looks closely enough. The DNA of the people who left is still present in the genetic record of populations across the Levant. And the palace at Pylos is still a burned ruin on a hill in southwestern Greece. Its destruction layers still measurable, its fire still chemically present in the soil. The last records were written. The last ships were launched. And then, for 400 years, no one in Greece wrote anything at all. The answers were always there, in the clay, in the bones, in the fire-hardened bureaucratic language of a civilization writing its own ending, one administrative entry at a time. If you found this investigation worth following, hit the like button and subscribe. We go deep on exactly this kind of discovery every single week. And if this story raised more questions than it answered, there's a video waiting for you right now on the Bronze Age collapse that will take you further into the world that burned in 1177 BC. Click it. You won't want to stop.